Now, may I request Mr. Ebrahim?
Yeah, I think like Ebrahim is here. And so Ebrahim, the question that Mr. Sharma put on you is like, how do you see the current or the opportunities post-COVID for the dairy sector, and like especially in the last leg of the milk delivery?
Yes, absolutely. So particularly I would like to touch upon, and thank you, Kuldeep, for that very detailed introduction into how technology is changing the landscape. And that's a sure shot. Some of the things that you mentioned, I particularly like how you mentioned that the function of technology is to reduce costs. I would like to add on a little bit to that. The function of technology could be to reduce cost or optimize quality, such as what Stellabs does today. It's a much needed aspect in today's dairy ecosystem where we do not have the traceability that we should have. But largely, I would like to focus upon the last mile and how technology plays a role in the last mile. India has a very specific milk consumption story. It is unlike any other country. If we go to any other country, the concept of fresh milk is much lesser than as it exists in India today. Today, we see over 87% of Indians from a household consumption aspect consume fresh milk. This is not prevalent anywhere. The concept of a daily milkman delivering to your doorstep, once again, is not prevalent in any place apart from India. And this is possible because of the ecosystem laid out by our cooperatives. And that is why Amul is a case study for, of course, a lot of cooperatives in India, which they followed, but worldwide. It is a massive success story, and it resonates even after 60, 70 years of its existence. Now, the problem which we see in today's ecosystem for the last mile delivery is a multi-pronged problem. Firstly, it is about the traceability. Dairies or cooperatives today do not have the traceability once the dispatch is there from their own center. Who is consuming this? How much are they consuming? We do not have any traceability at this point. And for such a large consumption story, that's quite a lot of lack of data visibility. Second, what are the cost structures? Because of the huge fragmentation, our estimates tell us that each local delivery man, we're called doodhwala.com. And even this was to say that even the current milkman is just a doodhwala, and so are we just a doodhwala, nothing more than that. The current doodhwala, each of them serves 0.003% of its market share in one given geography. That's how fragmented it is. Secondly, it turns out to be a secondary occupation for most of the people delivering. This leads to a host of inefficiencies in the supply chain, whether it's demand forecasting, where today most of the channels actually use an archaic coupon system. So we are unable to know the exact demand from the customer in itself. The margins, of course, are lower, the fill rate is lower, and the number of SKUs or the assortment is much lower for a customer. And this is, again, a large part of our spend. We today spend over 20% of our personal consumption expenditure on dairy. This is higher than any other country that there is. Literally, it's 3 times as much as US and twice as much as China. So it is huge. Again, us being a vegetarian country and also getting our source of protein from dairy, this is what causes it. So the polypack market itself is a large market. 6.3 billion is what they say, growing at 15-16% CAGR. The eventual goal for anyone playing in the last mile and digitizing this technology has to be to move these urbanites who are consuming it from a traditional milkman onto an online portal and build a more efficient supply chain which can lower costs. So in the technology last mile, we have seen various kind of players. We have seen inventory-led, we have seen marketplace. Inventory-led would have been Doodhwala or Milk Basket, and marketplace-led would have been Daily Ninja, which tends to aggregate all the milkmen. But either way, all of these go in tandem to move this entire system finally online. Now, where does technology spread? The spread of technology is in various places. We have seen technology reduce operational costs, inventory costs, demand forecasting accuracy, allow route optimization, and finally bring in more supply chain traceability. We have seen a 60% reduction in wastage. The fulfillment rate that we used to operate at used to be 99.3%, and we've seen a 20% reduction in mid-mile cost in itself, which is why I strongly agree with Mr. Kuldeep's statement of the function of technology is truly just to reduce costs. And from a consumer perspective, because technology not only reduces costs, but it also has to enhance behavior. And this is where COVID also tends to play an important role. COVID pushes digitization, and consumers who may have not tried technology due to just age-old habits are now pushing to try technology, because the push of digitization, and the most mature market that we're able to see this is currently just China. How has China reacted immediately to COVID? We have seen digitization ramp up in a country that was already very well digitized, unlike us. So what would happen to us? We would see that again go forward. So any last mile service, any essential service has just seen a rise in orders. What this means for consumers who are consuming technology, milk as last mile for technology, the benefits would be a subscription-based behavior. They're able to shop in that way. There is a scheduling feature. There are checkout free editions, and there is finally traceability to your order coming in every day, as opposed to your traditional last mile milkman. One very interesting part that every last mile company, last mile technology company has observed is the metrics and the consumer behavior. We have seen, and I would like to spread this not just to what we had observed at Dudhwala, but to the entire industry, be it Dudhwala, Daily Ninja, Milk Basket, Super Daily, etc. The engagement for e-commerce, which is usually, by e-commerce, I would mean anything from Flipkart to Amazon, would be maybe once in 30 days. Whereas what we saw on any milk tech platform was 3 times a week. The retention rates, which typically go anywhere over 6 months, would be for the industry, any other e-commerce portal, would be about 15 to 20%. This industry, milk tech industry, has seen 80% on an annual basis, which actually means the customer sticks with you over 4 years plus. And these are very strong metrics which only exist here. And just to finish up, what is this market size? When we talk about just the technology impact, early adopters, what we have seen are in the first 5 million amongst the top metro cities. But we will actually see this adoption of last mile technology go on to the urbanites that exists on the second layer, the second income bracket, which would be about 100 million people. And finally, at the right time and at the right point in the future, we would see almost the whole 300 million urbanites move to something of the sort, or some technology-enabled e-commerce platform, or specifically milk tech. And again, what is the additional value created? The width of the network, the width of any milk tech, the spread. If we have to think, what is the largest last mile workforce in terms of network that exists in this country today? We could say postal service. And what's next? It's actually the milk distribution network. And being able to harness the power of all this milk consumption points, it will truly become the largest network that exists. Already from the milk run, which is done on the procurement side, is a case study. Nobody is able to procure from those many points because, again, India has the lowest yield. Our farmers produce, each farmer has the lowest output as compared, and much lower as compared to any industry. But we're able to collect from those multiple points, and that's what our entire supply chain is about. And similarly, it will look like an exact opposite at the last mile end, where we're able to collect to one point, but actually have the highest network that exists. And the maximum impact would actually come in data. The digitization of this supply chain provides data. Where today there is a zero data offline chain, this will actually move into a chain that would be able to capture data on consumption patterns, on income levels, on anything. And that is data, as the adage goes, is the new oil. And that's what it would entail. It would entail for us to capture all this data and then be able to make it larger, monetize, and more customer specific on that basis. So that's from my side on just the last mile and the milk tech sector as a whole.
Thank you, Ebrahim. It was.
I'd love any questions also coming in.
Yeah, I think later on question will come, but just a very quick question which I would like to ask is, you mentioned about 2 points. One of them is related to the challenges related to adoption of this technology. So you are practically following the same routes of innovators, the kind of pyramid which you are making. So do you find that while you entered into this space and you started this doodhwala.com, so did you find that there were some kind of challenges related to use of technology to buy a product or a commodity like milk? Was there some kind of, at the customer front? So please share that. Yeah.
Yes, that's an interesting question. Initially, when we launched, our first premise, and it's a very, story I romanticize, that we actually just ran out of milk, and me and my future co-founders started speaking about this problem and actually got onto it. So it was a very real problem that affected us. And one of the challenges that I saw in our model not becoming the success that it could be would be consumer adoption. But what we actually saw in the market was the stark opposite. What we saw was we were growing 20% month on month without, and I'm talking at the time where we did not have a marketing spend. And this is not just doodhwala.com, but the entire milk tech industry, to show that consumers had a strong incentive to move. Largely, they face their inefficiencies of unable to, just a basic thing. Today, I put two coupons outside on my packet waiting for my milkman, but my milkman does not know if I have changed my order from my regular 1 to 2. He estimates the 1 packet for me and he leaves the 1 packet for me, whereas I wanted 2 that day. This is a small consumer habit. As soon as they become digital, they're able to change this online, and the next day they get the exact quantity. So a couple of soft points like this actually propelled the customer to move much faster. So I would say it was a pleasant surprise, and it continues in that fashion, that the consumer adoption has been the strongest in this model.
Great. Thank you, Ebrahim.